He's going to be talking about bridging the gap between fantasy sports and sports betting, keeping your emotions out of sports betting. What an honor to introduce the man. I hope I get to party with him this weekend. I hope I do. Make some noise and please welcome Gabe Morency.
I appreciate the kind introduction. First off, I want to, we're good, eh? We're good, eh? All right, I'm like Al Gore up here, except I'm not talking about the environment. All right, my name is Gabe Morency, and I have a gambling problem. Oh, wait, wrong room. But honestly, once I was on the radio and we thought it would be a fun experience to take the Gamblers Anonymous quiz, I answered yes to 19 of the 20 questions. The only question that I didn't admit to being a degenerate gambler was, did I steal money from a loved one to gamble? I originally said no, and then I remembered, no, I did used to steal money from my father. A couple of bucks in from the change to here and there to get a parlay ticket in. But all kidding aside, we appreciate the great introduction. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming down here. It's been freaking awesome so far, hasn't it, guys? First class experience, and we're going to try to help you guys make some money. But let's give it up for SBR for making this happen. And of course, all the sponsors for making this happen as well. So as Jimmy alluded to, now I'm on the Fantasy Sports Network. Now, I've been on TV for about 16 years now, hosting radio shows and television shows on various networks around North America. I lived in LA, I lived in Vegas, I lived in Montreal, I lived in Toronto. I used to be the host of the Expos post-game show. And an interesting story about this, it's actually true. I used to place bets from the same payphone that Pete Rose used to call and place his bets from. And to me, I had made it. I'm like, how cool is this? Like, you know, I'm in the clubhouse, I'm calling bets from the Pete Rose hotline. You know, we used to call it the Pete Rose hotline, right? So, you know, I've been on the mainstream side of things, you know, professional sports, but my roots have always been gaming. All right, I started betting in 1982 when I was 12 years old. And I was hooked then. And I realized then when I was 12, after my first, I played a parlay card. And the following week, the kid didn't show up at school with the parlay card. And I'm 12 years old, and I'm like, the NFL's just not the same. This Bills game isn't as fun as it was last week. So ever since then, I was hooked. And fortunately, I've been able to make a career out of it on TV, and then sometimes winning. Now, incidentally, a couple of years ago, it's the highest profile thing in the gaming industry we probably accomplish, finishing in 8th place 2 years ago in the LV Westgate Super Contest. We would have finished higher, but Mark Lawrence was in our way. And one of the best in the business, but we actually ended up tying for 8th place with Mark Lawrence. Last year, we struggled. This year, we're going to be entering a ton of contests, and I'm fired up to talk some football. So now I'm on a Fantasy Sports Network, yet it's funny because years ago, people would ask me, are you into fantasy football? And I'd say, you know, my fantasies in football are with Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, not really, you know, not really how many yards a quarterback is going to throw for, only because I've got money on the game. I don't want to worry about that. But over the years, I've come to realize there are a million games and a million options in every game. And I'm obsessed with them all. You know, I'm like Gordon, Gecko. I don't want to leave any of the profit on the table and find out after. You're telling me this guy had 7 catches and the prop was 2.5? I want to be on top of that. Now, one thing that I realized years ago, actually, was people started sending me the preview magazines. And, you get the preview magazines, they're going to break down the offense, they're going to break down the defense, but you're not really going to get inside. What sort of the analytics of things. You know, what side of the field do they give up more yards to? How do they do on 3rd down? What do they do on 1st down, etc.? And I found that fantasy football guys, like how many people in the room play fantasy football here? Like DraftKings, I guess, DFS and everything, season-long leagues. The information that you get from the fantasy world right now can be applied into the prop world. And what's amazing, 71% of people who play fantasy football actually bet on sports. But I saw with these fantasy magazines, I'm like, man, this is way more detailed. I'm getting way more information than I am from a standard preview and breakdown. You got to understand not just the team, but a fantasy guy could tell you position by position all the way through. So let's start off with this right now. And a classic example. Now, anyone who plays DraftKings is aware right now, with the $1 Million Maker and etc. Tight ends are scoring more touchdowns than ever. It's a tight end league. Every year the National Football League breaks its own records for throwing the football more than it did in the previous year. Yet tight ends, I know I'm sweating, guys. I see guys looking at me like, yeah, I'm aware. I'm dying up here. Late night last night. But, tight ends are absolutely killing it right now. And, there's a couple of teams coming into this year that really didn't address this situation. The Carolina Panthers being one of them. They gave up 12 touchdowns last year to tight ends. Generally, you're going to get a tight end prop. Will a player score a touchdown? Could be in about the plus 250 range. Plus 175, plus 300 range. These guys gave up 12 touchdowns. There's a couple of teams on the list here. The Dallas Cowboys absolutely get murdered by tight ends. 113 receptions allowed by the Dallas Cowboys to tight ends. All right, that was the most second most in the league after the Washington Redskins at 114. Arizona Cardinals, 47. There's a big discrepancy there. You're betting a tight end prop against the Arizona Cardinals. You're not winning. You're not going to win that prop. They got a great secondary. They're batting everything down. You can pick. People think, the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, they had a great year against the point spread. Yeah, guys had great years betting on tight end props against them as well. So, I think the tight end prop is a very, very good one now. Quarterbacks love going to the tight end nowadays. And you can get the props often in the 2.5 to 3.5 catches in the football game. But let's get real. A prop, and I'm almost known for this. I should start a website, The Prop King, so to speak. But for years, I've caught on to the long field goal prop. Every sports book has it, the long field goal prop, and it flies right under the radar, guys. And I've got a team here that was actually 12-4 to the long field goal prop last year. Now, we're talking about Justin Tucker and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the long field goal prop is generally going to be 43.5 yards, maybe 44.5 yards. Justin Tucker went over all these numbers. The guy was 10 for 10 from 50-yard field goals or out, guys. 10 for freaking 10. And the thing about Justin Tucker is he's only 27 years old right now. He's probably their best player as well. I mean, let's be real. You look at a Baltimore Raven offense, Harbaugh will attempt a field goal from the 35-yard line. Some teams will be like, you know what? We got a good offense. Let's get the first down. Not Harbaugh. Harbaugh will kick that field goal. Guys, 12 out of freaking 16 games last year, the long field goal prop. Justin Tucker hit it 11 times on his own, and once the New York Giants did as well. 12-4, and I would expect a very similar situation coming into this year with Justin Tucker and the Baltimore Ravens. He's the best kicker in the league, and weather's not even a factor. Now, I've made money with Bailey in this situation as well. He's really good, but Tucker's just so freaking consistent in this situation, and Harbaugh, as I stated, it's up to the coach. Harbaugh has trust in this guy. He doesn't have a lot of weapons to work with. That's a prop that I'm encouraging you all to keep your eye on a weekly basis. Listen, if you play this blindly with Justin Tucker, you're going to win at least 10 times. You're going to win at least 10 times. The guy, the year before, he attempted 14 kicks, 50 yards or more. He hit 10 of those. Last year, he was 10 for 10. All right? It's almost free money. Nothing's free, but they're putting it on the table there for you. Now, we talk about, the correlation between fantasy football and betting football. And as I stated, it's not just with the tight ends and with the long field goal props. I've done team-by-team previews for each National Football League team over the last month. And looking at the LA Rams, there's a perception the Rams defense is great. I don't know, man. They got like 6 guys that were on Gene Simmons' LA Kiss, I think, last year, vying for one of the cornerback spots. Now, and you got Trumaine Johnson on one side. We're going to pick on this other side. There's going to be opportunities. Sack props are another one. It's not rocket science either. You look at, we tend to overthink things and try to overcap things. A great example is you look at the Rams and Goff last year. He got freaking knocked around, all right? He got knocked around a hell of a lot. The Arizona Cardinals led the National Football League in sacks last year. Yet they play in a division against a bunch of teams that give up a ton of freaking sacks. It's another very, very viable prop on a weekly basis when they're playing in the division. Seattle Seahawks have the worst offensive line in the National Football League once again coming into this year, according to Pro Football Focus, who have become sort of the gold standard of rating offensive units. And I expect the Arizona Cardinals, they have a great defense. It's going to lead me into a future that I have on the Cardinals here. But you look at the Seattle Seahawks. They didn't make their O-line any better. Their O-line isn't any better right now. Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life once again. You look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff, like, it's not the offensive line. Goff doesn't know what the hell he's doing back there. He's going to get killed as well. So I'm telling you right now, when Arizona plays Seattle, when they play San Francisco, when they play the Rams, bet the over of the sacks in the game. And as I stated earlier, teams are throwing more than they ever have before. More opportunities for sacks. Sack prop is usually 4.5. Once again, it'll hit like a good 68, 70% of the time. It's not sexy. People want to watch the game and cheer for the catch and cheer for the touchdown. I don't care about that. I just want to watch my account go up during the game. And the beautiful things about these props is there's times when Tucker hits a 47-yard field goal on the first mother effing drive. You've won. Thank you. Next. You move on to the next game. But we get caught up in, we got to pick the right side. Like, the Super Bowl, pick the right side. Props, classic example of it. I always diversify my portfolios. My games are split in half. I'll usually have about $5,000 in action. I'll have about $2,500 of it in props riding, and $2,500 of it riding on the games. It's a little bit of an insurance. And I'll sort of counterbalance it a little bit as well. Let's say, a good example was when the Packers played the Falcons. I love the Falcons to beat the Packers in a playoff game last year. But I also knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to freaking light it up as well. So I bet a ton of money on the Falcons, but I also stacked up on Packer props. Let's say the Falcons choke, I lose my bet. Well, that means the Packers props are all going to cash. Even better, Falcons covered and all the props cash, right? It's sort of an insurance policy, so to speak. All right, so let me get into a team, and we got Mr. Mark Lawrence here. And we've been breaking down NFL teams with college teams, NFL teams on a weekly basis, on a daily basis on the Fantasy Sports Network. And the team I want to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals, all right? The Arizona Cardinals. The win total is 8.5. And I heard Teddy talk this morning about futures. I hate futures. I'm an impatient son of a bitch, man. Like, I've actually broken toasters getting pissed off waiting for toast. No joke. Like, seriously. Like, I've stood there like, what the fuck, man? And I'm like, fuck. I am very impatient. So it's hard for me to bet on futures. And I'm also one of these guys, too. I'm sort of like a punk rocker in the sense that I'm like, man, if I bet a future, fuck, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive then, right? It's one of those type of things. We're like, I don't want to put money on this, man. I'm not feeling too well recently. I got to worry about my bet now, I'm worried about the now. And I got so bad, I was so impatient, I started betting will there be a run in the first inning of baseball games. It's like the crack cocaine of betting, all right? It really is. It's like the fucking crack cocaine of betting. And, you're stressing out the first pitch, the second pitch, and, you bet the first inning, and then, of course, right after that, you're like, all right, let's try to bet the under in the first 5 here now. So, I'm not I've never gotten to the point where I bet which basketball team will score 10 points first and stuff. That's, then you might as well just go fucking play Keno at this point in time. But I will be honest, when it comes to baseball and other sports, I'm recreationally gambling. I find it's a problem that we probably a lot of us have in the room here. We try to be experts at everything in every sport. I talk about every sport all the time, and it doesn't mean I'm going to cap every sport equally because I have a hot take and a good opinion about a sport, right? So you sort of have to identify which sports am I really making money on and which sports am I betting to have fun with. I'm not betting baseball to make money on. Who fucking knows what's going to happen in a baseball game? I tell you guys a quick story about, baseball. Esteban Loaiza. Remember Esteban Loaiza, the pitcher? A buddy of mine was in an after-hours club in Toronto, Ontario. Loaiza is pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays. All right? It's about 5:30 in the morning. Loaiza is walking around an after-hours club with like 4 beers in his hand. All right? He's hanging with a bunch of chicks. My buddy goes up to him. He's like, hey, Esteban, man. He goes, aren't you pitching tomorrow? He goes, no, man, I pitched today, man. I pitched today. It's like 5 in the morning, right? He's pitching that night. And he's sweating like I am now, too. It's a hot place. He's sweating it up like a motherfucker. All right, so he's sweating it. So my buddy calls. He's like, dude, listen, Esteban Loaiza is like doing rails and fucking getting hammered here. And he's pitching tonight, man. He goes, load up, all right? Load up on the game. So everyone fucking starts, putting the money in. Don't worry, real inside information. We know. Motherfucker gets on the hill. He's sweating all day. He looks awful. Like, he walks slow out to the mound, kind of like we're laughing type of deal. The guy threw 7 innings of one-hit baseball. After every pitch, he got off the mound and was like this. And like people just thought he was concentrating. No, he was like sweating booze out. But, so my point is, there's no lock in baseball, all right? There's no lock in baseball. Another quick anecdote like that, when I was hosting the Expos post-game show. All right, now baseball players, not like football. All right, they're not like football. It's not as rah-rah in the clubhouse before. They're all sort of doing their own thing. But it was when Sammy Sosa was there, all right? So Sammy Sosa and the Cubs was during that steroid home run thing, and the Cubs were good. But the Cubs were struggling a bit. And the Cubs had like a football-style huddle in the tunnel before the game. And I saw it. I was there. And it was one of these deals, man. Enough fucking around. We're going to do this. We're going to get back on track. We're playing Cub baseball. It was like a football, it was like a movie. It was like the greatest speech ever. And Sosa was like, we didn't come this far to fail. And like he gave him this speech. And they all were all fired up. I was like, man, I got to bet on the Cubs, man. I got to bet on the Cubs. Cubs scored like 7 runs in the first 2 innings. I'm patting myself on the back like Barry Horowitz until the Cubs bullpen fucking blew it, and I ended up losing the bet. So when I bet baseball, I know it's for fun. Anything can happen. You got to understand sport by sport. But when it comes to football, I really do believe that we are investing, not really gambling. The NFL and college football is a stock market. I look at the board like I do. It's a stock market. And, people want to make money on, Apple stocks. It's too late to make money on Apple stocks. So that's why I like to find the props and the games within the games, guys. I'm telling you, I can't stress that enough. The games within the game. The only thing is you start to really get pissed off during the game because you're obsessed with everything that you didn't take. Son of a bitch, I knew this backup running back was going to get 23 and a half yards. I didn't do it. You can't bet on it all. But isolate the top 10 best props. And I'm telling you, take a look at the field goal prop that I was telling you guys about. Take a look at the tight end props, the over-under catches when the tight ends are playing against the Carolina Panthers. When they're playing, the Dallas Cowboys have a young-ass secondary this year, guys. All right? And I'm talking about the guys that might not end up being in jail by the time the season starts. So they've got a young secondary, and it's not going to change. Their secondary was soft and got carved up last year by tight ends. Like, brutally. Like I said, 113 catches, guys. 113 catches. They didn't do anything to really address this. They've got younger guys in the secondary right now. So let's take a look at a tight end prop when the Dallas Cowboys playing. What's the over-under for the tight end prop? 2.5, 3, boom. Take the over. So I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals a little bit. And I was talking about I'm a very impatient person, but I'm right so fucking often with these futures. And I'm like, I didn't die. I should have taken it. I'm still alive. So at this point, you know what? I'm jumping in right now. And although I am impatient and I don't want to wait till the end of the playoffs, and Ted Safranci, Teddy Covers, brought up a great point this morning as well. You play a future on a Super Bowl team, you're going to get the same damn number when the playoffs start for the most part. Sometimes a better number. When the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl against San Francisco, they were like 18-1 before the year started. Before the playoffs started, they were 25-1. The New York Giants, similar situation. Giants are always, 16-1, 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. And then when the playoffs start, they're always 25-1 once again. So it's really not worth it. I'm not a big fan of the to-win futures, only because as Teddy pointed out, only one team is going to win, and you're going to have to wait a hell of a long time. Now, I don't mind playing division prop futures. I think there's some money to be made there as well. You don't have to wait to the end of the playoffs. But let's talk about this Arizona Cardinal team. The win total is 8.5, guys. 8.5 this year, and it's plus 100. So you're not laying any juice on this either. There's a big perception. I don't know what it is, that the hatred about the Arizona Cardinals. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong with a team? Is there something wrong with a team that ranked 4th against the pass? They gave up 210 yards a game in the air. All right? They're ranked 9th versus the run, 94 yards a game on the ground. Oh, yeah, they led the National Football League in sacks last year. Last year was a disaster for the Arizona Cardinals. They still went 7-8-1. All right? Bruce Arians is one of the best coaches in the league. You know, the guy had some health issues last year. They had a ton of injuries. It was just one of those snake-bitten years for Arizona. You know, the tie football game, they were missing extra points, missing field goals early, and then sort of they got behind the 8 ball and they couldn't catch up to it. But coming into this year, the Arizona Cardinals, there's a lot to like about this football team. Everybody's going to talk about Le'Veon Bell. David Johnson's just as good, if not better, all right? You know, from an impact that he's going to bring to the table. So you've got a superstar player here. The big concern is Carson Palmer, all right? Don't be concerned with Carson Palmer. And this is where you're going to get value. This is why people don't want to take Arizona. Listen, they're playing in a terrible division. Last year they went 4-1-1 in their 6 division games. The prop is 8.5, guys. Let's say they win 4. They're playing San Francisco and LA another 4 times. Let's say they go 4-2. All right, they go 4-2. We got to go 5-5 against the rest of the league after this. But Carson Palmer, 38 years old, really got it together last year over the last month of the season. And, you know, we take this from a fantasy perspective. Carson Palmer is sort of forgotten about. He's old. He's 38 years old. He got beat up last year. How much does he have left in the tank? I think he's like the 20th ranked fantasy quarterback. So in other words, people aren't taking him. They don't believe in him. Well, this is when you get value, right? You can't bet on what's already happened. You got to bet on what's going to happen. You got to think outside the box a little bit. Now, Carson Palmer, last 5 games of the season last year, 11 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. Why? He stopped throwing the footballs on Wednesday. Bruce Arians told him, you know what? Your arm's flat. Your arm's dead. We got to stop throwing so many footballs during the week. In the offseason, Arians told him, don't throw footballs in the summer, guys. He said, don't throw the ball. Carson Palmer, the accuracy, the velocity, the zip. He nearly broke David Johnson's finger the other day, threw the ball so hard. They're saying Carson Palmer's got that it thing. He's feeling great. He's refreshed once again. And I believe in Carson Palmer bouncing back this year. John Brown, sickle cell issue. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not good to play football when you got a sickle cell issue. It's been addressed. Expect John Brown to bust out in a big way as well. Fitzgerald's still a badass. This guy just doesn't seem to age. But what I love about this football team is the defense and the division that they play in. 8.5 is too low. They're going to give Seattle all they can handle for this division. And we talk about an already badass defense that added maybe one of the best linebackers in the draft in Hassan Reddick out of Temple into the mix. Buda Baker being thrown into an already athletic secondary. I think this is a real dark horse. I believe Arizona's not only going to go over 8.5 at plus 100. I think Arizona's going to the playoffs, guys, all right? I think Arizona's going to go to the playoffs. You can bet the Arizona playoff prop, but I will be betting, I'm going to put about $2,000, $3,000 on this one. So I'm not just standing up here telling you, oh, Arizona could go over. No. I'm going to Vegas in 3 weeks, and I'm betting Arizona to go over 8.5. Now, a team that I talked about, let's talk some college football here. And, I thought I was going to be real cute talking about Florida Atlantic, and I find out guys are talking about Louisiana Monroe and stuff. All right. I guess I'm pretty high profile there with my FAU thought here. So, Florida Atlantic University. I like to identify, and I'm sort of a fan of Florida Atlantic. There's certain schools, Central Michigan. I'm a fan of Central Michigan. Dan Lefevre and the Chips. They're like a good friend. When I need money, they help me out. It's like, I know the Chips will get it done for me. But these are programs that fly under the radar. The odds makers don't really care about the game all that much. The numbers are just going to be sort of blindly set. They're more concerned with the CBS Alabama game of the week than they are the Florida Atlantic or the Monroe game. That's why I love the direction of this. Let's talk about Florida Atlantic right now. I've always liked Florida Atlantic. I've had Howard Schellenberg on my program in past years. Great coach. Former Miami Hurricane coach, of course. He was briefly at Florida Atlantic. And then subsequently, it turned out the Florida Atlantic kids were fans of my show. So they started sending me jerseys and gear. They just said, don't tell them that's from us because they're going to know we're, So, yeah, I guess I could say some of those kids were betting, all right? But anyways, that was years ago, all right? It's like steroids in the UFC. You got college kids betting. Yeah, they're all doing it. But let's talk about Florida Atlantic. Who's their coach this year, guys? Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin could have really picked a few spots, all right? The guy's a dirtball, but he's a great football coach. He, and he had a nice, successful run at Alabama, but somehow, of course, in a Lane Kiffin way, got to get, can't make it all the way through to the championship game somehow. But look, Sarkisian's gone too. Saban just could be a jerk too, right? It goes both ways. But anyways, so Lane Kiffin comes in here right now in a Florida Atlantic. He also has 14 returning starters into the mix. Who's the offensive coordinator? Kendall Briles. Kendall Briles comes over from Baylor. This is some high-powered, deviant stuff. This is like Walter White stuff. You know what I'm saying? Breaking Bad. Like, this is some, like, deviant, like, in the kitchen thinking we're about to really fuck with these coaches' minds in the Sun Belt, man. You're going to have, like, Kiffin and Briles together? All we're missing right now, let's be real. Let's just hire O.J. Simpson as the running back coach and move on with it. We'll have Kiffin. We got a Briles. We got O.J. Hey, come on. At this point, like, I got to tell you, I think the NCAA, they already have, like, investigators just sitting in a car watching. They're just watching everything. They're like, we're watching you, Kiffin. Like, Kiffin's looking over his shoulder. And it's like, and, Kiffin, though, Kiffin just needs to get to a bowl game here. And that's the whole plan for Lane Kiffin. And, to get to a bowl game in today's new college football world in which, everyone gets to a bowl game, all you need is 6 wins. The over-under is 4 wins for Florida Atlantic. Listen, the last 3 years in a row, they've been a 3-win team. So Las Vegas is basically telling us that they only think that Kendall Briles and that Lane Kiffin is worth 1 game in the Sun Belt. That's it. I don't buy that. Oh yeah. We should bring up the fact that Lane's brother left Ole Miss to become the coordinator at Florida Atlantic as well. All right. They got an all-star coach. Monty Kiffin is also part of this package. Good Super Bowl winners in the Sun Belt right now, guys. All right. We also have a quarterback in DeAndre Johnson. Another quarterback, stud quarterback, would have been a starting quarterback with the Florida State Seminoles. All right. This kid, like every other starting quarterback in Florida, either likes to touch women or hit women. All right, unfortunately. So this kid punched a chick on video, and you know you're a bad kid when Jimbo Fisher won't stand up for you. All right? So, but hey, Lane Kiffin doesn't have a problem. So that's what I'm saying. It's just perfect. If you're Kiffin, is there a kid out there that hits chicks that's fucking good? Yes, there is, Lane. You know what? And he's playing at East Mississippi fucking Community College right now. He's just like perfect. Fucking perfect. All right? So we've got an ACC blue chip. And my boy over here was nodding. My boy from Texas over here, Chicago, partying with last night. He's nodding when I start talking about DeAndre. The kid's a talent, man. The kid's a big-time talent. We're talking about a big-time conference, ACC, good enough to be the starter at Florida State talent. Now going to be wreaking havoc on the Sun Belt. Listen, they opened up against Navy. All right, it's a home game for FAU. It's a tough one. First program, first game for Johnson, etc. But I think Navy could be a little bit vulnerable this year. Wisconsin, they're going to Madison in week 2. They got no shot. All right, let's just hope Johnson doesn't get killed in that game. After that, though, we got Bethune Cookman. We got the Buffalo Bulls, all right? I think we could just put pads on us right now and we'd beat the Buffalo Bulls. We got Middle Tennessee State. Games at FAU, very winnable game. At Old Dominion, winnable game. Hosting North Texas, winnable game. I don't see them beating the Hilltoppers on the road. Hosting Marshall, winnable game for this Owl team with the 14 returning starters that they have coming back. This is a bowl or bust for Lane Kiffin, all right? To Lane Kiffin's mind, he's not here to win 8 games. He wants to be in a bowl at the end of the year. And I do believe that Kendall Briles and Lane Kiffin and DeAndre Johnson can get them there. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have to. Bet isn't that they get to a bowl game. The win total is 4, all right? At worst, we're going to get a push here. There's going to be a 6-win team. Worst 5. I'd be shocked even if we get the push. I love Florida Atlantic to go in a Ted Savransky over 4 wins this year, guys. Over 4 wins. So that's about all I got right now. If anybody's got any questions or anything like that, ask them to me now before I drop dead up here. We good? Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because, yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, because my boy Zach, and give it up, Zach, that great guy, Zach Jones. It was actually Zach's idea for me to talk about not letting emotions get into gaming. I was like, is this a joke? I said, how the fuck am I supposed to stand in front of people and tell people to, keep your emotions in check? I make money off of, like, losing my emotion. That's my thing. But I'm glad you bring up the Buffalo Bills, actually. It's a big thing. Because somebody actually, trolled me on Twitter, saying, oh, Morency, you're going to talk about, like, keeping your emotions out of things. You bet on the Bills all the time. I'm one of these people that don't believe that. I never understand people. I don't like betting on my favorite team. I don't like knowing. Well, don't you know your favorite team more than any other fucking team in the league? Like, you know what I mean? You know your favorite team. The only difference is just take your heart out of it and realize, like, I'm not stupid. Like, I'm like, yeah, the Buffalo Bills aren't covering against the Patriots. I'm aware of this because I've seen the Patriots beat them 17 of the last 19 fucking times. All right, that's not emotion. But as far as the Buffalo Bills, love the over 6.5 wins this year. Sean McDermott, people don't realize about this guy. Looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin, all right? Guy's a badass. He was a national wrestling champion in high school, prep champion. He's just a little pit bull-like type of guy. Carolina Panthers defense has always been rock solid when he was there. You bring in Rick Dennison, a Super Bowl offensive coordinator. Listen, I think Rex Ryan's an idiot, all right? The Buffalo Bills were able to win 7 games with Rex Ryan. They were able to win 8 games with Rex Ryan. Now they have a competent staff. I think they won 7 and 8 games despite Rex Ryan. And, and this is another way of sort of fading the mainstream media perception. It's really funny. The last couple of years, the Buffalo Bills were like ESPN and the NFL networks. Which team didn't make the playoffs last year is going to make the playoffs? Oh, Rex Ryan and the Buffalo Bills. And now you read the perception. Oh, it's over for the Bills. Rex Ryan tried to save it and he can't. And somehow it's worse. Oh, yeah, somehow it's worse. Rex Ryan's a fucking moron, all right? The guy just shouldn't be standing on an NFL sideline. Put him in a booth, fine. But the guy was a horrible coach. I like the Buffalo Bills. They got a lot of talent. No reason they don't go over 6.5 wins this year. Mr. Safransky.
I want to hear the toaster story, dude.
Oh. I have quite a few of them, if you want.
Yeah, toaster story. We got to hear one.
A toaster story. Well, I can tell you one thing, actually. I'm kind of stupid. No kidding. I have broken toasters.
I'm sure.
So basically what I do.
I can picture it.
Yeah, so you push the thing down, but I basically just like pop it back up so hard so that, that it flies out. It flies out, but yeah, no kidding. I've smashed a few toasters along my way.
I'm certain you can picture it.
Yeah, but I try not to. I'm not as crazy as people think. I'm kind of loud in real life and stuff, but I'm watching games at home. You do have to keep that emotion out of it. If you're one of these guys that's kicking chairs over after every fucking penalty and stuff, you're gonna go crazy, right? I stress out much less than I used to be honest. But one thing I do want to stress, though, and I'm telling you, even though I see most of you do play fantasy, pick up a fantasy football preview magazine, all right? Even if you're not a fantasy guy. It's not like you're buying Entertainment Weekly, all right? You're still going to enjoy it. You're not a fantasy guy. Read the player rankings. So you're not just breaking down the teams. Know the players and the situations, all right? And since I got into fantasy and working on Fantasy Sports Network, I've been a better NFL better because of it. It's made me smarter. It can help you guys as well. But I want to thank you guys for paying attention to me. I'm dead serious about the picks that I gave. Tucker, man. But Justin Tucker, long field goal, 12-4 last year. Love Arizona, over 8.5. And I'm big on the Florida Atlantic Owls to win more than 4 football games this year, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks to SBR for the invite. And may the winners be yours.